The restaurant fell silent the moment she walked through the door. I saw people glance at each other, cover their smiles behind coffee cups, and wait for my reaction as if they had all paid to watch a cruel performance. My friends avoided looking me in the eye because they already knew the joke they had planned for weeks. They had set me up on a blind date with an obese woman, convinced I would storm out in embarrassment, laugh at her, or demand an explanation. Instead, what happened over the next few hours left every person in that room wiping away tears, including the people who believed they understood what beauty, love, and dignity really meant. Before the story continues, if you believe kindness is more powerful than appearance and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to spread kindness. Every act of support helps these stories reach people who may need hope today. I had always believed my closest friends knew me better than anyone else. We had grown up together, survived school together, and celebrated every important milestone side by side. But somewhere along the way, success had changed our conversations. They judged people by expensive watches, luxury cars, perfect social media photos, and impossible beauty standards. Every gathering became another competition over who looked better, earned more money, or attracted more attention. I laughed along sometimes because it felt easier than standing against the crowd, but deep inside I hated the direction our friendships were taking. I never imagined they would eventually decide to test my character by turning another human being into the center of their entertainment. When they invited me to dinner, they claimed someone had arranged a surprise blind date with an incredible woman. They described her as intelligent, kind, and unforgettable. Their excitement seemed genuine, although something about the smiles on their faces felt rehearsed. I ignored the feeling because I trusted them. I arrived early, adjusted my jacket, and waited near the window while the restaurant slowly filled with families, couples, and business professionals. The atmosphere felt warm until I noticed several of my friends whispering to one another while secretly watching the entrance. Then she arrived. She walked carefully, carrying herself with remarkable dignity despite the nervousness visible on her face. She was much heavier than society would consider attractive, wearing a simple navy blue dress that looked carefully chosen for the occasion. Her hair was neatly styled, her smile was gentle, and her eyes revealed years of quiet battles that most people would never notice. The moment she stepped inside, several people around the restaurant exchanged amused expressions. My friends leaned forward in anticipation, convinced the humiliation was about to begin. I stood up immediately. Not because I wanted to leave. Because I wanted to greet her properly. I smiled, introduced myself warmly, pulled out her chair, and thanked her for coming. For a brief second she looked confused, almost as though kindness itself had become something unexpected in her life. She admitted she had nearly turned around before entering because she had experienced enough painful blind dates to know how they usually ended. Men often looked disappointed before saying a single word. Some invented emergencies. Others mocked her afterward online. She had learned to prepare herself for rejection before every introduction because hope had become more dangerous than loneliness. As dinner began, I stopped noticing the room around us. I learned that she was a children's librarian who spent weekends reading stories to children recovering in hospitals. She organized free literacy programs for struggling families, quietly paid for school supplies whenever she could afford it, and volunteered at an animal shelter where abandoned dogs seemed to trust her immediately. She spoke with compassion about people who felt invisible because she knew exactly what invisibility felt like. Every sentence revealed a heart that had grown stronger through years of being underestimated. While she shared pieces of her life, I noticed the scars hidden beneath her confidence. She had battled a medical condition that caused dramatic weight gain despite years of treatment and healthy habits. Countless strangers believed they understood her simply by looking at her body. They assumed laziness, weakness, or lack of discipline without knowing anything about her daily struggles. Doctors, co-workers, classmates, and even distant relatives often offered opinions instead of empathy. She smiled while telling these stories, but behind every smile lived memories of silent tears. Around us, my friends slowly stopped laughing. The joke they had planned no longer looked funny. For the first time that evening, they began listening. Hours passed without either of us noticing. We spoke about childhood dreams, aging parents, fears of loneliness, and the importance of treating strangers with respect because no one truly knows another person's hidden battles. She confessed that before coming, she had almost cancelled 3 different times because she assumed another humiliating experience awaited her. Something inside me broke hearing that. I realized how many decent people carried invisible wounds simply because society refused to look beyond appearances. Eventually one of my friends walked over, unable to hide his discomfort any longer. He admitted the entire date had been organized as a prank. They had expected me to leave immediately or become angry. Instead, they had watched 2 strangers enjoy one of the most genuine conversations anyone in the restaurant had witnessed. The confession echoed through the quiet room. Even nearby diners stopped eating. I looked around and saw embarrassed faces everywhere. No one expected what happened next. I stood up, thanked every single person for unintentionally reminding me how easily people forget another person's humanity, and explained that beauty had never guaranteed kindness, loyalty, honesty, or compassion. I said I had met conventionally attractive people whose hearts were filled with cruelty, and ordinary-looking people whose kindness had transformed countless lives. I admitted that if anyone should feel ashamed that evening, it was not the woman sitting beside me. It was every person who had laughed before learning her story. The room became completely silent. One of my friends lowered his head and quietly apologized to her. Another admitted he had never considered how painful these situations must be. A waitress who had overheard everything wiped tears from her eyes before bringing dessert to our table without charging us. An elderly couple sitting nearby smiled warmly and thanked us for reminding them of values they feared the world was forgetting. The atmosphere had transformed from quiet mockery into overwhelming compassion. After dinner I offered to walk her home. The evening air felt peaceful as city lights reflected across rain-soaked streets. She confessed that despite everything she had endured, she still believed good people existed because giving up on humanity would mean allowing cruel experiences to define her future. Her optimism humbled me. I realized she possessed more courage than many people who had never experienced rejection. Every day she chose kindness despite receiving judgment in return. Over the following months we became close friends. We volunteered together at the children's library, helped organize community food drives, and spent weekends delivering books to children who could not leave the hospital. Watching her interact with frightened children revealed the extraordinary person hidden behind the assumptions people made at first glance. She never sought recognition. She simply believed everyone deserved hope, especially during their darkest moments. My old group of friends slowly changed as well. Their cruel joke became a painful lesson they never forgot. Several of them began volunteering alongside us. Others apologized sincerely for judging people by appearance throughout their lives. Change did not happen overnight, but genuine remorse often becomes the beginning of personal growth. They learned that maturity begins the moment we recognize another person's dignity as equal to our own. Looking back, I often think about that restaurant. If I had reacted the way everyone expected, another heart would have gone home carrying one more scar. Instead, choosing simple respect created a ripple that reached every table in that room and eventually touched many lives beyond it. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is refusing to join the crowd when the crowd chooses cruelty. Our story reminds me that every person carries invisible chapters the world has never read. Some battle illness. Some grieve loved ones. Some fight loneliness behind bright smiles. Others wake each morning determined not to let yesterday's insults define today's possibilities. We never know who is silently praying for one moment of kindness to restore their faith in humanity. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, subscribe to spread kindness, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support helps these stories inspire more people to choose compassion over judgment. Before we reach the ending, please leave a comment with one simple sentence: kindness sees the heart. Let your words remind someone reading the comments that true beauty always begins within. Years later, whenever people asked how we first met, we never focused on the prank itself. We remembered the lesson it accidentally created. A room that expected humiliation witnessed grace instead. A woman who expected rejection found genuine respect. Friends who expected laughter discovered regret and redemption. And I learned that sometimes life places us in unfair situations simply to reveal the kind of person we choose to become when everyone else is watching. The world will always offer opportunities to judge people by appearances, but it also offers countless chances to become the reason someone believes in kindness again. Long after beauty fades, money disappears, and popularity is forgotten, people remember how we made them feel. Compassion leaves footprints that last far longer than first impressions ever could. That evening did not become unforgettable because of the prank. It became unforgettable because one simple decision proved that dignity, empathy, and love are stronger than cruelty, and sometimes one act of respect is enough to bring an entire room to tears.